Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel. And just yesterday in Hollywood, California, I was able to speak directly with the CEO of Guitar Center, Gabe Dalporto. Now, he is still the relatively new CEO of Guitar Center, being appointed in 2023, and he made some comments just last year talking about some changes that were going to be happening in Guitar Center. And he took a lot of flack at the time from myself as well as a lot of other people on YouTube. Those comments that he made last year, and I'll get into the details of that stuff, I think when that stuff came out, people felt that he was kind of out of touch with what a lot of guitar players wanted. But after being able to speak with him directly and getting him to clarify his position on a few things, I'm actually much more optimistic for the future of Guitar Center. Okay guys, so before I go any further, I should mention that this video is not sponsored in any way by Guitar Center. This is just stuff that I think is really important for guitar players to understand with everything that's going on in the guitar market and, you know, in-person guitar retailers versus the huge online market and everything. So let's talk about the comments that Gabe Dalporto made last year and why I now think his comments were kind of not really put in the right context and why so many people misunderstood them. So last year, he'd said things about there's going to be big changes in Guitar Center, and the big thing was that he wanted to focus less on beginner entry-level guitar players and focus more on serious gigging musicians. Musicians where, you know, they played guitar on a regular basis, they've been playing for a long time, and guitar playing was a big part of their everyday life. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that was the general gist of it. And when people first saw that, myself included, they thought, well, that's weird. You know, there's such a huge potential market for beginner guitar players. You know, there's way more people who are thinking about playing guitar and getting their first guitar. There's way more of those people than there are like serious gigging musicians, because the people who actually make a career out of playing guitar, it's a relatively small number compared to the people who are just kind of like thinking about starting, or they want to play guitar someday and they're going to get their first guitar. So a lot of people read his comments and they thought, wow, that seems really out of touch and just seems like a mistake. And I was thinking about this from the perspective that it's easier to sell 10 $100 guitars than it is to sell one $1,000 guitar, and so wouldn't it be a better business model to focus more on beginners, because you're going to make a lot more sales that way? Well, when I talked to him yesterday, he made one really great point that I really hadn't thought about, and that is that they want long-term customers. And he pointed out, and this is a true statistic, if you have 10 guitar players that go in and they buy their first guitar and they start playing, right? They're beginner guitar players just starting out. If you have 10 of those people, only one of them is still going to be playing guitar a year later. Most people who start playing guitar, or really any other instrument, most people quit. The vast majority quit. And those 9 out of 10 people that start playing and then quit, they are never going to be long-term repeat customers. So if you're only looking at it on a very short time scale, then yes, initially, if you're just focused on like how many people can you make this one sale with, right? Then yeah, the beginners, that is a better market. But that's not what Guitar Center is focused on. Guitar Center is a big, established, old company at this point, and they want, you know, they're looking at the long game here, right? They want to continue many, many years into the future. And for that to happen, you need long-term repeat customers. Now, there was something else he said. He had a second really good point. And this was, you know, I was at an event at the Hollywood Guitar Center, and he was also there, and I got to speak with him after the event, and it was great. But the second point that he made is that he wants to change the reputation of Guitar Center for being a place where serious, established, professional musicians go and shop. And I said to him, well, if you change the reputation of Guitar Center to fit those people, isn't that going to be maybe intimidating to the beginners? Like, they're not going to want to go to shop there because they're like, well, what if I go in and I don't know the right questions to ask or something, and the staff isn't going to take me seriously because I'm not an established musician? I asked him, are you worried about that? And he said no. He said that he thinks it's actually going to have the opposite effect. That it's because Guitar Center will have the reputation as being where the serious musicians go, beginner guitar players, beginner musicians will want to be associated with that. They want to go where the pros go. And when you think about it, that really makes a lot of sense. Nobody wants to shop where the losers shop. Nobody wants to shop where the quitters shop. I think in reality, so many musicians, and guitar players in particular, have this wonderful sort of aspirational goal that they're working towards. Whether it's they want to be an old school rock star, or they want to be, you know, the latest, greatest, like TikTok content creator or whatever. They're shooting for something big, right? They're shooting for something higher. And so if you are working on this big goal, right, you want to use the same tools that the people who are successful at that thing use as well. The other thing he said is that he does not want to exclude beginner guitar players. And when somebody starting out comes into the store, he still wants everybody to help them as much as possible. It's just that he wants to reframe the core customer base of Guitar Center to be more around longer term, more serious musicians. Okay guys, so what do you think about all of that? I think sometimes when people sit down and do interviews and those comments then get published on a website or a magazine or something, you know, those journalists and editors and everything, they always pick and choose particularly impactful quotes from those interviews. And I think this is one case where the particular quotes that got put out there really didn't give us a full picture of what Gabe wanted to do with Guitar Center. So guys, as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you very soon.